You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when you walk into a space and something shifts, not in the room, but in you. Something ancient stirs. Something that remembers. The conversation doesn't pause. No one turns to acknowledge you. Yet the very air seems to hold its breath, as if reality itself is adjusting to accommodate your presence. Most people spend their entire lives chasing power, seeking it in titles, possessions, the approval of others. They believe power is something outside themselves, something to be earned, achieved, or granted. But there's another truth, whispered in the silence between thoughts, revealed in moments when you stop trying and simply are. There exists a presence so profound that it needs no announcement, no validation, no external confirmation. It simply is, and in its being, it disturbs. This isn't the disturbance of force or aggression. This is the disturbance of truth, encountering illusion, of reality meeting pretense, of the divine in you recognizing itself everywhere. What if the power you've been seeking outside yourself has been radiating from within you all along? What if your very assumption about who you are creates ripples in the consciousness of others? Let me ask you, where in the world are you listening from right now? And what time is it where you are? However you've found your way to this moment, I'm grateful our paths have crossed in consciousness. Let's step into the teaching. You have been taught to believe that power is something you must acquire, that influence is something you must develop. You've been conditioned to look outward, to diplomas on walls, numbers in bank accounts, the opinions of others searching for evidence that you matter, that you have worth, that you possess some measure of control over your experience. But Neville Goddard knew a secret that turns this entire paradigm upside down. He understood that you are not seeking power, you are power. You are not trying to influence others, you are influence itself. The very consciousness reading these words right now, the awareness behind your eyes, the I am that experiences your experience. This is not separate from the creative force of the universe. This is the creative force of the universe. Most people live from the assumption of separation. They assume they are small, powerless beings in a vast, indifferent cosmos, hoping to gain something from a world that exists independently of their consciousness. This assumption becomes their lived reality. They struggle, they strive, they depend on circumstances to change before they can feel powerful. But what happens when you assume differently? What happens when you know not hope, not believe, but know that I am is the creative power of the universe expressing itself as you? Here lies the revolutionary heart of Neville's teaching. Your assumptions about yourself create your reality, including how others perceive and react to you. When you assume you are powerful, the world has no choice but to reflect that assumption back to you. This is not positive thinking. This is the fundamental law of consciousness itself. Neville taught that assumption, though false to the senses, if persisted in, will harden into fact. When you assume, truly assume, that you are a divine being expressing infinite creative power, something profound shifts in your energetic field. Others feel this before they understand it, before they can explain it, sometimes before they even consciously notice it. Your imagination is not separate from reality. Imagination is reality. Every time you imagine yourself as a powerful, divine being, that imaginal act becomes fact in your experience. Others sense this assumption because consciousness recognizes consciousness. When you know who you are, that knowing radiates from every cell of your being. This is the difference between trying to be powerful, which comes from the assumption of lack, and knowing you are powerful, which comes from recognizing your true nature. What others perceive as your disturbing aura is actually their recognition of someone who has stopped pretending to be less than they are. Now let us unveil the 10 signs, understanding that each is not a trait to develop, but a natural manifestation of someone who has assumed their divine nature. Your silence carries authority because you know I am. When you truly understand that consciousness is the only reality, you no longer need to fill space with words to prove your worth. Your silence speaks from the depth of knowing, and others feel the weight of that inner certainty. People mirror your inner state because consciousness creates experience. Neville taught that the world is yourself pushed out. When you assume divine authority within yourself, others cannot help but reflect that assumption back through their responses, their body language, their sudden shifts in behavior around you. Your presence shifts energy instantly because assumption rearranges reality. The moment you enter a space operating from the consciousness of I am, the entire energetic field must adjust to accommodate this truth. Reality bends to match your inner conviction. Others project onto you without cause because they feel your certainty about who you are. When someone encounters a person who truly knows their divine nature, it triggers every unhealed part within them that still doubts their own power. You trigger others' unhealed parts because light reveals shadows. Your assumption of wholeness naturally illuminates the places where others still assume lack, limitation, or separation from their source. Your calm unnerves those in chaos because peace disturbs turbulence. When you embody the stillness that comes from knowing I am is all, your presence becomes a mirror showing others their own inner storms. You attract or repel without effort because like attracts like in consciousness. Those who resonate with truth are drawn to your authenticity, while those still invested in illusion feel compelled to distance themselves. Your words land with unusual weight because truth resonates from assumption. When you speak from the consciousness of someone who knows their divine creativity itself, your words carry the authority of that realization. People seek your approval unconsciously because they sense your self-authority. When you no longer need external validation, others instinctively recognize this freedom and find themselves drawn to someone who has found their center. Your very existence challenges pretense because reality dissolves illusion. Simply by being authentically yourself, by living from your true assumptions about who you are, you make it impossible for others to maintain their masks and performances in your presence. But understanding these signs is only the beginning. The true transformation lies in the inner revolution that must take place. The complete shift in self-concept that makes these manifestations inevitable. Neville taught that the world is yourself pushed out, which means that disturbing others is actually about no longer being disturbed by your own power. This requires what Neville called dying to old states and being reborn into new ones. You must die to the assumption that you are small, powerless, dependent on circumstances or other people's approval. You must die to the belief that you are separate from the creative force of the universe. The old self will resist with everything it has. It will whisper that you are being arrogant, that you are deluding yourself, that power belongs to other people but not to you. Here lies man's chief delusion, as Neville called it, the conviction that there are causes other than your own state of consciousness. But the revolution happens when you realize you are not becoming powerful. You are remembering that you already are. The power was never absent. Only the assumption of powerlessness created the illusion of its absence. You are not developing divine authority, you are uncovering it. Now we come to living from the end. If the end is being someone whose aura naturally disturbs others through its divine authority, how do you live from that assumption now? You begin by moving through your daily life from the assumption that you are already a powerful being whose very presence rearranges reality. This is not about acting powerful or trying to disturb others. This is about so completely assuming your divine nature that it becomes your natural state of being. When you speak, you do so knowing that divine creativity is expressing through your words. Here lies the beautiful paradox. The more you need others to validate your power, the less powerful you actually are in consciousness. True power comes from complete independence from external confirmation. When you know I am, you do not need the world to mirror it back, though it inevitably will, because consciousness always externalizes itself. This assumption affects every interaction you have. You speak less because you know your words carry weight. You need less because you assume abundance as your natural state. You fear less because you understand your own creative power to reshape any circumstance. You judge less because you recognize that everyone around you is consciousness in expression. When someone responds to you with discomfort or projection, you do not take it personally because you understand they are responding to their own assumptions about power. This is not about superiority or ego. This is about alignment with the fundamental creative principle of the universe. The I am that Neville taught is both human imagination and divine reality. Now we come full circle to Neville's deepest revelation. I am is the way. Recognizing these signs in yourself is not about personal achievement or individual power. It is about recognizing the divine creative principle that has been operating through you all along, waiting patiently for you to remember its presence. This power is not personal. It is the same creative force that imagined the universe into being, now expressing itself through human consciousness. You are not separate from this force. You are this force, individualized, localized, experiencing itself through your unique perspective. What others perceive as your powerful aura is actually their recognition of the divine in you, calling to the divine in them. Some respond with attraction because they remember their own divinity in your presence. Others respond with disturbance because they have forgotten theirs, and your presence reminds them of what they have abandoned. The 10 signs are not markers of personal superiority. They are evidence of alignment with your true nature. They appear when you stop pretending to be separate from the source of all creation and begin living from the assumption of unity with the divine creative force. You were never separate from this power. You are this power. The authority that others sense in your presence is not yours alone. It is the eternal I am, recognizing itself everywhere, disturbing every illusion of separation, calling every consciousness home to its divine nature. Take a moment right now to feel the truth of these words settling into your being. You have always been the one you were seeking. The power that disturbs others is the same power that creates worlds, dreams realities into existence, transforms the invisible into the visible, through the sacred act of assumption. You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are infinite consciousness having a human experience. You are not in the world is in you. Every person who reacts to your presence is responding to their own reflection in the mirror of your consciousness. You are I am made manifest. You are imagination creating reality. You are the eternal dreamer, awakening within the dream, recognizing that you have been both the dreamer and the dream all along. This is Neville's gift to humanity, not a teaching to follow, but a remembrance to embody. Now go forward, not seeking to disturb, but simply being who you truly are. And watch as reality rearranges itself to match the magnificence of your assumption.